Josh Jacobs last year was far and away the best running back in football. What we've seen over the last couple of weeks, running backs are not respected in the league, especially if he's a top running back, touches about 48% of his team's offense. He takes the biggest beatings, and most running backs only plays about 3.5 years in the NFL. So that rookie contract is not enough. Saquon Barkley has been asking for money. Derrick Henry asking for an extension. Now you have Josh Jacobs. You have Jonathan Taylor that has problems with the Indianapolis Colts who wants more money. You look at these wide receivers, they're making tons of money. Devontae Adams, even Hopkins, who missed almost the whole season last year. He came back, had a pretty good season, had 700 yards for the time that he was there with the Arizona Cardinals. Goes to Tennessee and gets $13 million this offseason. For 2 years, Hopkins really didn't play. I do believe the game has changed. It's become more of an offensive game. Everything is built around the quarterback and the wide receivers. As you see, Aaron Rodgers with Garrett Wilson. Samuel for the 49ers wanted that big contract. He told the 49ers in the offseason, if you do not pay me, I'm going to hold out. Now you're seeing different running backs. They're willing to sit out and hold out, like Jonathan Taylor, because he didn't want to play for the Indianapolis Colts. And we have seen Josh Jacobs, who came out and said that he will sit out if he doesn't get paid. That's why they extended him before the season started, before the deadline. Saquon Barkley, who was the Giants' best player by far. Daniel Jones gets $40 million, and Saquon Barkley gets incentives. I know everybody looks at that particular position that it's not important. You can find a running back in the 5th or the 6th or the 7th round or undrafted. But you look at Josh Jacobs. He was everything to Josh McDaniels' offense last year. You bring in Devontae Adams. His best friend, Derek Carr, was there. And what happens? 2 games left of the season, they don't even dress him. He's not even on the sidelines. And what do in the offseason? They let him go. He goes to the Saints. Josh McDaniels has hurt every single team that he's coached. Go ask the Broncos. He drafted Tim Tebow. Josh Jacobs was not drafted by Josh McDaniels. That was a John Gruden guy. I do believe Josh Jacobs is worth what Nick Chubb got paid in 2021, the 3 years, $36 million. But there are great running backs still available this offseason. Hunt, Leonard Fournette, and that's because teams decided the running back position is not an important position. You can find a running back off of waivers or in free agency. Look at Austin Eckler. Look what he's been dealing with the Chargers this offseason. He has been the best running back in the league when it comes to touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. Last year, he had 13 touchdowns, 915 yards in 204 attempts. His receptions as a wide receiver and running back was 107 with 5 reception touchdowns. And Austin Eckler didn't get an extension. He is going to be a free agent next year. You have a running back this good who's averaging 13 rushing, 5 reception touchdowns every single season, and it's been the last 2 years. Having those kind of numbers, he deserves the money. Josh Jacobs, he hasn't been healthy over the last couple of years. But when he is in the lineup, he's one of the best running backs in the league. The Colts did not trade Jonathan Taylor before August 29th's deadline. The Colts put Taylor on the PUP list, meaning he must miss at least the first 4 games of the season. The Colts say they are still willing to trade him before the trade deadline, before week 9. The Dolphins and the Packers were the 2 teams that expressed the most interest in Taylor. The Dolphins and the Colts were reportedly still very far off as far as a trade value. One rumor even mentioned that the Colts wanted Jaylen Waddle back in the deal. The GM of the Miami Dolphins, Greer, said they must be out of their minds if they think I'm going to trade Jaylen Waddle for Jonathan Taylor. And I think that's a fair trade. Jonathan Taylor, a year ago, was the best running back in football. Obviously, he was hurt, and he really wasn't the player that he was the year before. Jonathan Taylor is still a fantastic offensive player, and Jaylen Waddle is one of the better wide receivers in football, young wide receivers. The problem here is when you look at the wide receiving position to the running back position, GMs and coaches now, they look at the running back position as not an important factor to an offense, which is ridiculous. There's a lot of stories coming out of Indianapolis that a lot of people didn't like Jonathan Taylor. He had problems on and off the field with teammates and even other teams. And even when he was at the combine, a lot of teams were passing up on him. Some people thought he could have been a late first-round draft pick, but he fell to the second round because his interviews were not that good. Indianapolis decided to draft him because they thought he was too good to pass up on. He's been with the Indianapolis Colts for 3 years, and he's been injured 2 out of the 3. His value isn't that high. But Jaylen Waddle, if you look at their all-around talent, you're going to want the wide receiver. But Jonathan Taylor, 2 years ago, when he was up as an MVP candidate, if you look at his season with Cooper Kupp, those were 2 of the great seasons for a running back and a wide receiver.